Hi, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Are you looking for some free science fiction and fantasy books to get you through this holiday weekend? I've got them. Because every week, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of each of the top 5 free fantasy and sci-fi books on Amazon. Yes, Amazon has a list. The link to it is in this description box below if you want to see the whole thing. Today we have an adventure in the multiverse, mysterious archaeological artifacts, and a dangerous academy of magic. But before we get to all that, hi everybody, welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar, and today I was helped out with the reviews by Lilibet Dominguez-Torres and Tim McHugh. Unfortunately, neither of them could be here today. Hope you guys are having a great holiday weekend. And Emma couldn't be here with us today either. I hope she has a great trip. Okay, so let's skip over everything else and get straight to the books, starting with book number 5 and counting down to book number 1. So book number 5 is King of Flames by Kathryn and Kingsley. It's the first of 6 books in the Masks of Under, a romantic fantasy series. The other books are $4 each. They're all in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the Amazon books you want. Lilibet read this for us, and she says that the book is about Lydia, who's a forensic technician, and she's had a normal life until one day she wakes up with a strange tattoo on her arm. And so when the book opens, she has no memory of how she got this tattoo, and there's a letter in a strange language that she doesn't recognize. She tries to rub it off. She tries all kinds of cleaners on it. Nothing works. And so she's like, well, I guess I'll go on with my day. And she goes to work at the Forensic Institute. And there's a new last minute case on the table. And she gets to work and everything seems normal until a couple of weird things happen. First, she realizes that the corpse she's working with has no blood inside of it. And second, she realizes that the corpse also has a tattoo similar to her new weird tattoo, but there's a different letter on the tattoo on the corpse. So something isn't right. But she doesn't know what that is or how bad things actually are until the corpse grabs her by the wrist, and then it gets up and starts chasing her around the room. So that's kind of weird and unusual. And then a mysterious man wearing a mask shows up and saves her from this reanimated dead body monster. But does he actually save her? So there's a question there. So Lilibet says that she loved the start of this book. The pace is fast and the story turned dark really quickly, really caught her attention. And she felt like she was reading a horror story and completely forgot that there's a mystery and maybe a romance happening. And she really enjoyed being sucked in. So she says that she recommends this if you want something full of horror, promise of forbidden romance, and a dark world filled with mystery. And she says that she might continue reading this one day. So as a personal aside, I know I say this a lot in my reviews. I'll put this on my to be read list and definitely something I'm going to stick with. To be honest, half the time I don't. I forget that the book's on my list. And then later when I'm going through the bookshelf and I see the cover, I don't recognize it. I just move on. Sorry. But the good books pop up on our list again, and I'm reminded of them. And usually the second time around, I do finish them. Okay, now, speaking of another book that is one of those, it's on my list. Maybe I'll read it. This is Adventures of Dirty Dottie, Finding Joy by Carolyn, Schield, and Tom Vorbeck. It's a standalone book, but it's related to the 3-book Keys of Life, a fantasy adventure series. The other books are $8 each, but they are all in Kindle Unlimited. And the 3rd book of that series is also free today. So I read this, and the thing that struck me most when I started reading this book is its old-fashioned narrative style. So first we get a giant opening paragraph about who Dirty Dottie is and what she's like. So we're not shown what she's like, we're told what she's like. Like she's the kind of woman who likes this and does that, that kind of thing. And then we get into the action. She's coming home from a day of grueling rehearsals. So she's on stage somewhere, I guess. And she's getting out of her sweaty theater clothes and she changes into her husband's favorite black teddy and has a drink of vintage wine. So she's the kind of person who comes home from work and immediately changes into sexy night clothes. And we don't know why. Is this something she does every day? Is this a special occasion? Um, is it her husband's birthday? Why is she drinking wine? I don't know. She's celebrating something. Does she have a hard day? We don't really get a lot of interiority in this book. So she checks the mail, and it's the old-fashioned paper kind of mail. And so my thought was, oh, she's getting physical mail that she's going through. She has a sip of wine after work and changes into a sexy clothing to meet her husband. Maybe this is set in the 50s, right? Or sometime before the internet, when people were still getting letters in the mail. One of the letters thanks Dottie for saving her life, saving some people's lives, and invites her to a birthday party. And she's so happy she starts crying. And this is how her husband finds her when he gets home from work. She's drinking wine, wearing a sexy teddy, crying over a letter. And we kind of skip over the rest of that scene. She tells her husband like very briefly what's going on, jumps on a plane. She goes alone. If she says goodbye to her husband, it's never mentioned. She grabs a nap in a hotel room and then catches a taxi to her destination, and the taxi driver has a GPS. So I guess we're in the modern day after all. All right, in the next chapter, we're getting a backstory. A lot of backstory. So she's going to see a couple of married friends. The woman has magical powers, including healing and the ability to see the future. The husband is an archaeologist who's discovered some kind of ancient curse. And I'm guessing that all of this is told about in the related books in the series. And the two of them have a son, also an archaeologist, and a pair of baby twins who are about to turn 1. It's their birthday party that Dottie is invited to. And there's a few other friends and relatives at the party, both in person and electronically. So I guess definitely the modern day. Although again, the writing style is very old-fashioned. And by old-fashioned, I mean there's a lot of summarizing, and we don't get a lot of interiority into the characters. So like, if a character feels sad, we don't feel the sadness, like we don't actually see them feeling sad. We're just told, oh, she was sad. Like that kind of thing, like telling instead of showing, right? So there's a lot of that. And then there's a ton of backstory. There are 15 chapters worth of backstory. They're short chapters, but these are all backstory. These are people sitting around at this party telling each other stories or remembering things, or us as the reader just being told things that have happened in the past. And because the whole book is told in summary, you can't tell if they're just summarizing something to us for the first time or they're rehashing something that happened in the previous book. So a little confusing there. We get a lot of Dottie's history. We get the history of all the people at the party. And we still haven't gotten to the plot. Then in chapter 16, we switch to a new location. We're with the bad guys, and it's World War II, and the bad guys are trying to beat Hitler to some historic artifact. There's a sword, then there's a kind of some painting, and there's a lot of summary here. So, and I'm guessing that this is World War II period because they're trying to beat Hitler to something. And then they catch up to Dottie. Okay, so this all happens in one chapter. So I guess we're like jumping forward fast through time from World War II to the present. And she's somehow connected to these artifacts. And when they find her, they realize that they're on the trail, and they follow Dottie to her friend's house where the birthday party is being held. So she accidentally led the bad guys straight to her friends. And now this is when the plot begins in earnest. The bad guys are staking out the house, and they're ready to kill for these artifacts. So the book simultaneously moves like very quickly and very slowly, right? So a lot of information is packed within this opening in these very short chapters. It's all told in summary, which, I mean, it depends on whether you like that writing style. It does feel very, very old-fashioned. In theory, the book is my kind of book. I love archaeological type capers like the Indiana Jones books. And this book seems to fall into that genre. Or something like, oh, okay, I'm blanking, but you know, chasing historical artifacts all over the place. But there's this detached writing style, a huge amount of exposition, kind of makes it hard for me to get into it, which isn't necessarily an obstacle. I've read other books that also have a slightly detached writing style. Stuart Wood's best-selling Stone Barrington books are kind of detached, and a lot of stuff happens in them. And I've read like every single one of those books more than once, and they're bestsellers, and there's like, I think 40 of them in the series. It is a popular style. This book does take it to a bit of an extreme. But on the plus side, the detached style means that you're not feeling the things that the characters are feeling. So it's a little less stressful. If horrible things happen, you don't really feel it too closely because you're a little detached. And so this might be a good book to read while digesting Thanksgiving leftovers when you don't want to read something that will upset you. So, and like I said, the premise of it is something that I like. I like the idea of magic, historic artifacts, chasing things around the world, possibly Nazis. You know, I love all this stuff. So again, like I might read this, and it's on my list. It's on my like bookshelf in my little Kindle. So we'll see. Next, we have Max in the Multiverse by Zachry Wheeler, the first of 7 books in the award-winning Max in the Multiverse sci-fi adventure series. The other books are $4 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited, but books 4 through 7 are also free today. Okay, so the author's been on this list before several times. Popular author, popular book. Tim McHugh read this for us. And he says that this is a satire, a science fiction story where teenagers tumbles through the multiverse. And he says that he doesn't normally read humor books, but when he does come across one, he loves them. So he could be the target demographic here. He says the book starts with Max, a high schooler. Spring break just started. He's got the house to himself. And so he plans to spend a whole week playing video games. And at the end of it, he's passed out on his keyboard, and when he wakes up, his cat can talk. And so that's the beginning of the book. The first chapter, he's trying to come to terms with the fact that the cat talks, and there's a little banter between them. Then he goes back to the video games and passes out again, but this time when he wakes up, he's in a different universe, and this one is ruled by flying pterodactyls. And this is when he realizes that every time he falls asleep, he will wake up in a new universe. So Tim says that he thought it was a good book, but he didn't really find it all that funny. The jokes weren't like bad or cringy, but they didn't make him chortle. So, but even like putting that aside, it's a well-written young adult book. Seems like it would be a fun adventure. He's not going to stick with it because it's not to his taste. But if you like light read that leans towards young adult, you might enjoy this one. And I personally have to say that I've reviewed and read to the end at least one, I think possibly more of this guy's other sci-fi books. Love them. So I do like the guy's writing style, and I recommend the author, even though I haven't read this particular book. Next, we have Oathborne Year One by Morgan Rice, the first of 8 books in the Oathborne Young Adult Epic Fantasy series. The other books are $4 to $6 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. And I read this, and so first of all, I'm gonna confess, I hate young adults. I hate young people in general, and I don't like young adult fiction because in general, with a few exceptions, I have no patience for teenage drama. It's just too much. I'm too old for it. I don't wanna deal with it. But from what I've read of the book so far, I've seen a lot of action, but I haven't seen any drama. So if you're a hater of drama like me, this could be a book for you, or maybe I just haven't started getting into the parts of the book that have the drama in them. Anyway, so Kayla is our protagonist, and she's a thief. She's running through back alleys of the city, chased by pursuers. She evades them easily at first and gives some money to a poor beggar child along the way, but her apparent easy escape is an illusion because more guards block the street ahead of her and she's trapped. But she still has tricks up her sleeve. She goes up a wall and then hides in the shadows, and the guards walk right past her and don't see her. She's free. But is she really free? She knows that the guards will always be there and her life will be more of the same. And then a stranger appears, telling her that he's been watching her and offers her an opportunity to change her life. And so that was the prologue. Then in chapter 2, it's 2 days later, and we also learn she's 19 years old, and she decided to take the stranger up on his offer, even though she doesn't even know his first name, his name at all, first or last. And so there's a challenge she has to overcome. She must fight her way through some kind of a storm to a place called Stone Garden, and she has to follow some instructions and find a secret passage to her destination, which is the Stone Garden Academy, a place of magic and secrecy. And when I saw that, I was like, oh no, it's a magic academy. I hate magic academies. I mean, I liked the Harry Potter books when they came out because my daughter was like the ideal age to be into Harry Potter, and I read all the books with her, and they were great. And I was pretty much Magic Academy'd out when I was done with those books. So I was really disappointed to discover that this is a book about a magic school. But if you like books about magic schools, hey, it's a book about a magic school. It's a bit grimmer than Harry Potter, though. So she finds this academy. She's able to make her way inside, and there's a crowd of would-be students from all 4 parts of the kingdom, and a wise old man welcomes them all and warns of dangers ahead. And then all the students must choose one of 3 portals to walk through. And she picks the one that seems the most dangerous because she's drawn to it, and finds herself on the other side along with all the other students. And she thinks, oh, I guess it didn't matter which portal you picked. And then a mysterious invisible hands drag some of the students screaming into the shadows where they disappear forever. And the old man tells them that he had warned them to choose wisely. And apparently the ones who were dragged away didn't follow their instincts and failed the first test. So it's a little grimmer than the Sorting Hat in Harry Potter. And then she starts going to classes. And I'm going to stop reading right there because I don't like going to classes. I didn't like going to classes when I was a student, and I do not have any nostalgic memories for those days, and I have no interest in reliving those days. And like I said, I've already read too many Magic Academy books. However, I do like Kayla. She seems like a brave, sympathetic character, except for the fact that she was ready to abandon everything and everyone she knew based on some vague promises from a guy she never met before. So that was a little odd. Yeah, so I'm not going to keep reading, but if you are a fan of young protagonists or magic schools, you might enjoy this series. Before we go on to book number 1 on today's list, I want to thank our Patreon supporters, including the first name on this list, Christopher Ludi, who is our latest Patreon supporter. We're now up to $250 a month for my Patreon, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over the course of 12 months, it adds up. And as a result, we're able to pay for tons of original science fiction short stories, science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And we publish them, we publish new stories every week on our website. The link's in the description box below. And we already have 3 anthologies out. We're working on the 4th one. So definitely check that out. And now, oh, also I have free books up. My books are free on Amazon as well. And the links to those are going to be in the description box below. And now let's go on to book number 1 on today's list, Legacy of Truth by Christy Nicholas. This is the second of 11 books in the Druid's Brooch series, a historic fantasy series, which, according to the author, can be read in any order. The other books are $1 to $6 each, but most of them are in Kindle Unlimited. And I read this. And again, the book begins with a prologue. And all the names are Scottish or Irish, and I'm going to have a lot of hard time pronouncing them. So Eamon is sitting in a rocking chair in front of a fire, and he's telling a story to his granddaughters. The tale of an Irish hero, so I guess it's Irish, who was raised by a warrior woman and who learned wisdom from a druid. And then the next day he's leaving, and we get some more backstory about him and his family. And so the family lives on a farm. It's 10 acres, and Eamon bought the farm for his son, daughter-in-law, and the grandchildren. So Eamon makes his money by traveling around trading and also by gambling. And now he's going to go back out on the road to make some more money. So that was the prologue. And then in the first chapter, we are in with the daughters, specifically Esme, one of the granddaughters. Their families were out working in the fields, they're planting crops. And over the next few chapters, we learn more about the family, the squabbles between the children. Esme has a twin sister she doesn't get along with. They're worried about going hungry if the crops fail. Their father is unable to stick with anything. And there's a bunch more obstacles, some of them due to the fact that they're Catholic instead of Protestant. So there's some hints of magical things. Very, very slow beginning. The girls grow up, fall in love, fight with each other. Esme's twin sister, the bad one, wants to marry a rich man who's a Protestant and thinks about converting away from Catholicism to being a Protestant. And meanwhile, Esme's torn between 2 boys. Then the twin sister announces that she will convert, and grandfather Eamon comes back, and he gives Esme a magical artifact that was the reason why he was so skilled at gambling. And he gives it to Esme because she would use the power unselfishly to help others. So she's got a magic ability now because of this artifact. She can tell if people are telling her the truth, which is pretty cool magic skill. So the book reads like a very slow-paced family saga. I can see how it'd be easy to get caught up into it, though it's not really my thing. I also have to warn you that there is explicit sex in the book, but it's not sexy sex. It's kind of like more emotionally grounded, unpleasant kind of sex. So the book definitely has like more depths, and this is a meaty book. This is not a kind of a dessert style romantasy book. This is more of a serious historical fantasy fiction kind of book. So if you want something you can sink your teeth into this weekend, there you go. This book was extremely readable, and if I were to stick with it, I think I would enjoy reading it very much. It's just not my genre. I don't like these kind of family sagas, and I don't want to get caught up in the girls' problems and the religious conflicts and everything else. It's just too much. And I don't want to deal with those kind of like heavy issues. But if that's your kind of thing, definitely check it out. And like I said, most of the other books are in Kindle Unlimited if you're a subscriber. So I want to thank you all very much for joining me this weekend, well, today. And if you don't want to miss any of these free Fridays, we do every single Friday. We have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, so you can get them in your email. Well, you can subscribe to this channel. You can support us on Patreon if you want to support original science fiction and fantasy by new and emerging authors. That would be fantastic. We would love you so much. And if you want to watch some more stuff from our channel, here's a couple of videos that YouTube recommends. Thanks, everybody. Have a great holiday season, and I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving. Bye, everybody.